Okay. Throughout the program and actually all summer long, I've been working on a project to interview some of the nuns who were given the Global Bhikkhuni Award by the Chinese Buddhist Bhikkhuni Association of Taiwan last November. Venerable Children was one of those people who received the award, along with 49 additional distinguished, outstanding nuns, I think they call them, for their work and for their life work, for their life as Buddhist monastics, and particularly for Buddhist nuns. And so it's been it's been a wonderful experience actually to interview four of the United States-based nuns who received that award. And to do it during EML has been especially, I don't know, pointed somehow for me. So I just shipped it off this morning. All the photos, all the interviews, everything is almost done. But it made me, I've been really thinking about this thing of role modeling and how that fits, especially where we are here with the Dharma in the West. There's this idea that Venerable Damchu actually turned me on to. It's this idea in the mentoring societies where they say if you can see it, you can be it. Right? You ever heard this before? Probably shows up in like training sessions. If you can see it, you can be it. So the definition of role model is a person who serves as an example of the values, attitudes, and behaviors associated with a role. Role models can also be a person who distinguishes themselves in such a way that others admire and want to emulate them. So I know one person in particular, but I think I've heard this story a few times. This young man saw a Buddhist monk on the street when he was like 12 years old. And from that moment on, he knew he wanted to be a monastic. So he actually spent some time here. So far in his life, he has not done that. And the conditions are kind of such that it would be difficult for him to do it for a long time now. But I've always been impressed with that story, that he saw that monk and said, oh, I want to be one of those. So some people have that karma. I didn't. It took me a lot more role models, a lot more people to see. But what I also think is interesting in that in the last few years, I've heard more and more people who are so clear that they want to be monastics in their next life. It's like, okay, I'm not going to do this now, but I really have this aspiration to ordain in the future. I will guarantee you 15 years ago, not one of those people had such a thought in their mind at all. Why would they? Here we are in the United States. How many monastics were there 15 years ago? There's 15 more or 14 more now than there were then. But, you know, it's not something we see very often. So this thing about role modeling, I don't know, it's really been in my mind. And then Venerable Damcho gave me this thing that the Christian Science Monitor ran a story about role modeling in giving it a statistical proof. I thought it was interesting. 3 out of women who begin their college studies in the hard sciences, or specifically in chemistry, engineering, and technology, out of 100 women who begin their college studies in those fields, only 3 actually become professionals in those fields. It's called the something pipeline, the STEM pipeline. Anyway, it's this thing about trying to get women scientists to become scientists because they can't stay scientists. And so they did an experiment where they tried having first-year technology students were mentored by more senior women scientists. At the end of that study, 100% of those women stayed in school and graduated. Their point being, if you can see it, you can be it. If someone is showing you that it's possible to be who you are and how you aspire to be, then you also have the idea that you can do it. So for me, these nuns of the Global Bhikkhuni Award, especially the American-based ones, are remarkable in that they didn't really have the same kind of role modeling that like I was seeking. But somehow, from their own karma, their own realizations, their own past virtue, it didn't exactly have the idea of, I'm going to see a monk and become a nun immediately. Maybe some of them did. But whatever it is, they had the internal fortitude to make that decision and to progress with or without those kinds of role models in front of them. For the rest of us, then, they've become role models that we can look at and say, oh, that's a person who has qualities that I admire. That's a person whose values, attitudes, and behaviors I want to emulate. And then, much to my surprise, here we are for our lay friends around who also then, oh, I have an aspiration to become a Buddhist monastic. I can't do it in this life. I'm already married. I'm already 78, 90 years old. But that seed is there. So in the future, some future life, you may see a monastic walking down the street and go, oh, I want to do that. And it begins the spark. Now, we know that's not enough. It takes a whole lot more than just having that realization awaken. But I want to just talk about it. I wanted to talk about it today because I think it's such a rare time that we live in this country and in the West in general, where, you know, when I was born, there were no Buddhists in my town. Or maybe, I don't even know, maybe there was a Chinese community somewhere, but I never even saw them. But here I am in this very lifetime, through causes and conditions and through people who made decisions about bringing and practicing the Dharma and holding their precepts purely in this life, that gave me an example to follow. So whether we choose that now, or whether we choose that in the future, I think to be aware and appreciative of the role models that we have, to be aware and appreciative of the fact that we have this possibility because of uncounted millions of people that have practiced since the Buddha's time, to carry it forward. And also then, for those of us who are wearing the robes, to remember our responsibility to keep that good visualization going. Because you never know when you're walking down the street what that image will be. So also for the people who are here, I just want to say in terms of my own kind of blocked vision, I had a tremendous role model in front of me, but somehow in my self doubt, I didn't think I could ever match up to that role model. So I needed to see a lot of others before it began to trigger my mind that, oh, I could do that too. I interviewed a lot of nuns. I'm sure they probably don't remember my name, but every nun that visited Sravasti Abbey during a certain period of time got grilled. What did you do? How did you decide? What made you think it? How is it for you? And I really recommend that people might take that route, because it was really useful to help me understand what I needed to do inside myself. One of the role models also, it's always so touching for me that she's still a good friend of the Abbey, but she said, you know, you have an aspiration, but it's not very stable. And so she shared her own journey. She said, I had an aspiration and I wasn't so stable too. But she said, I went to the temple and I bowed again and again and again and again. And I made prayers that whatever obstacles there might be in my mind, whatever obstacles there might be in the outer world, that those be removed. And that I come to not that I come to the decision to ordain, but that I come to the understanding of what is the best way to use my precious human life in this life. That I make those prostrations again and again and again to purify those obstacles so that I can live my life in a way that is meaningful, live my life in a way that shares the Dharma, and and it's the best way to use it at this time. So I always pass that advice on because I found it so extremely beneficial. And Venerable Chödrön said earlier in the teachings, I think it was Venerable Chödrön that said it, or maybe somebody just reminded us, once we've made those kinds of aspirations, We've done those kind of purifications. The prayers are clear. We know we want to give our life in a certain way. The decision makes itself. And then we have obstacles that come up, then we purify the obstacles. We have obstacles that come up that are irrevocable, then we live with that and we continue to live our lives in a way, the obstacles to ordaining. We continue to live in our life in a way with that kind of motivation to be of benefit and to make our life meaningful. So whichever way it falls, we don't lose. But whatever way it falls, we continue to be role models in this chaotic world that is much, much needed for people who are following their values, walking the talk, as they say. And the more, if you see it, you can be it, is true, then the more people can see and see a good visualization, then the more then the Buddha Dharma can spread here in the West. So that's my last BBC of the program, but I wanted to share those thoughts with you.